All right, this is 7.RP.3, 7th grade, Ratios and Proportions, Standard 3, Video 6, Simple Interest Part 2. Now in the last video, in Part 1, we talked about rearranging literal equations and extracting or taking out information from real-world examples when we're talking about simple interest problems, and then trying to solve those problems. Few terms to know. I'd like you to copy these down if you haven't already and define them in your notes. And here is the equation we've been talking about for simple interest. I is equal to PRT, and as you can see what all those letters or variables are representing. And then down there on the bottom we've talked about the balance, and the balance is when you take the interest and add it to the principal, so that would be your total amount. Here's the literal equation definition we spoke of in the last video. And today we are going to be taking this literal equation, I equals PRT, and we are going to be solving many different kinds of problems, actually four types of problems that involve solving for each of the missing variables. Okay, in the first one, it looks like we don't know what the interest is, so the interest is missing, and we are going to take the given values, P, R, and T, plug them into our equation, do all of the mathematics involved, and then see what the interest is going to be. All right, so I is missing. That's equal to the principal amount, which is 2,000, multiplied by the rate, which is 9 8/10%, multiplied by the time, which is 5 years. And I think we're going to make an alteration to this percentage. So let's turn the percentage into a decimal before we begin any of our work here. So I is equal to 2,000 multiplied by 98 thousandths multiplied by 5. Okay, multiplication is commutative, which means I can take these three values and multiply them in any order that I would like, the order that would be easiest for me. I always use the example 1 times 2 times 3 is the same as saying 3 times 2 times 1. All of both of those answers would end up at a value of 6. So I can rearrange this line here to make it easier for us. So let me do that quickly here. I think taking the 2,000 and multiplying it by the 5 would keep us from having to multiply two different decimal problems. So let's just get a whole number answer first and then multiply it by our decimal. And we have, all right, 2,000 times 5 is 10,000 multiplied by 0 and 98 thousandths. And we could do this a couple of ways. If you remember multiplying by powers of 10, we have 10,000. So we could move this decimal, 10 hundred thousandths, 10 thousandths. So we could move it over 4 places to the right, or we could go off to the side and do our work. We would have 10,000 multiplied by, oh, sorry. Well, let's just do this, 0.098. And for time's sake today, we've done a lot of work with multiplying decimals, so I'm going to be using a calculator to save some time on that. So let's see here. Oh, that's too much. Multiplied by and we get 980. So we moved it 1, 2, 3, had to add a 0, 4, and that's what we came up with for the interest. So the interest is equal to $980, and then in the problem above it looks like we're finding the interest, which is what we just did, and then the balance. So to find the balance, we're going to take that $980 and add it to the principal, which was $2,000, and that's going to be equal to the balance of $2,980. Okay, so let's label that balance. And then this was the interest. So we had two separate answers. Okay, the second type of problem, it looks like we have a missing principal amount. So we know what the interest was after the 2 years with a 7% rate. What was that total amount that we put in? Okay, so same idea. In this lesson, it's basically plugging numbers in and doing the mathematics correctly and then determining what the missing variable is and what that really means to the real world example here. So let's see, we have 84. Principal we don't know. The rate is 7%. And the time is 2 years. Okay. Change it to a decimal. Go off to the side, multiply your 7/100ths times your 2. If you don't know what the answer is right away, grab a pencil. Again, like I said, for today's purposes, we're going to be using the quick calculator, and we have, should be 0 and 14/100ths, and it is. So 84 is equal to the principal amount multiplied by 14/100ths. Okay, now in math, we've learned that if we're solving for a missing, excuse me, solving for a missing variable, and it's touching a number such as 0 and 14/100ths, we need to do the opposite of the operation that's occurring. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So to get rid of that 14/100ths, we're going to divide both sides by it. So they now cancel, and we're left with the principal amount equaling whatever this quotient is. So again, take out the calculator. 84 divided by 14/100ths is equal to 600. Let's check and see what they're asking for. They're asking for the principal amount, which would be money, and we have $600 being the principal amount. The third type, they have given us the interest, they've given us the principal, they've given us the time in months, which is a little different. We'll talk about that. And we are now missing the percentage rate. So the steps are still the same. Let's plug in what we know. We don't know the rate. We do know the time. We cannot just put a 9 in there this time because we're dealing with a part of a year. So 9 in terms of time of a year would be 9 months out of 12 months. And 9 divided by 12 is equal to a reduced form of 3/4. So if we reduced our fraction, we know that this is 3/4 of the year. So we're not using a whole number anymore here. Okay, so let's do our multiplication. Okay, 6,240 multiplied by 3/4. I am going to change 3/4 into the decimal. So we have multiplied by 3/4, which I know is 75 hundredths. If you don't know what I'm talking about there, see me in class, I can show you what I did there. And we get 4,680 multiplied by the rate. Okay. And again, if we're solving for the missing variable and it is attached to the whole number here, or the number 4,680, to get rid of that 4,680, we do the inverse operation of division, and that is going to eliminate it from the right side. And to balance the equation, we must also do that to the left side. Divide by 4,680. What does that do for us? These cancel, so my rate is going to be equal to whatever this quotient is on the left. And let's divide. So we have 468 divided by 80. And again, we can assume that it's going to be 1/10 with our cancellations, but let's just see it on the calculator. Oh, lo and behold, we have 1/10, which is a decimal. And we know that rates are in forms of percentages. So if I were to turn this decimal into a percentage, we would move our decimal 2 times to the right, which would leave us at 10%. Okay, last one. Now we are missing the time. And nothing has changed here in terms of how we go about solving. We have missing variables. So let's plug in all of the numbers that we know. Interest is 9. The principal is 450. The rate is 4%. We'll change it right into our decimal. And the time is t. Go off to the side of your paper, do your multiplication. I will use the calculator again. 450 multiplied by 4 hundredths. And that is 18. Okay, so 9 is equal to 18 multiplied by t. And again, if we have to get rid of this 18 that's attached to the variable, we do the opposite of that operation. So this is multiplying. The opposite is dividing. We're trying to get rid of the 18, do it on both sides. So these cancel. So t is equal to 9/18. And that is a fraction that can be reduced. So it reduces. The time is equal to 1/2. And what does that mean in terms of time of a year? A half of a year is known as 6 months of the year is equal to time. Okay, in your journals, please define the given terms on page 2 of the flip chart. Write a few sentences on what you learned from this video. Understand that today's lesson is primarily working with this literal equation for simple interest, using some of our algebra skills, practicing multiplying and dividing with decimals. And we're going to be taking this simple interest formula and applying it to some pretty intense word problems. Some word problems where you're going to have to extract information and then use this formula. So I don't want you to get stuck on this part of it. The hard part, or I'm sorry, the difficult part is going to be trying to figure out what numbers go into this equation and where they belong. Okay, I'll see you in class.